What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Propability. We're going to be diving deep into these props for UFC 282. We currently have a 13-fight card. Lawler Ponzinibbio is off. They are currently looking for a new opponent for Ponzinibbio. We'll have to see if they add that on, but we're going to be talking about 13 fights today. As always, we are here with Uncle Weezy. Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to UFC 282?
Damn right I am, man. Last pay-per-view of the year, only 2 more events left in the calendar year 2022 where we can stack cash tickets like flapjacks, beat these bookies with a bag of oranges until we juice them, drink that juice right in front of them. I'm fired up for this card, Brady. There are some spots that are sticking out, and some of the lines where the spots are sticking out to me haven't even opened yet. So it's going to be very exciting for the live viewers today with Probability. It's going to be one of those shows where you're going to really be able to beat some line movement. Shit, if this thing had started half an hour ago, we could have got on Daucus Rosen strike under 1.5 at plus 114 or something like that. It's already minus 150. So, you know, when we have these prop templates, when we have these analytics at our fingertips, Brady, it allows us to be able to make those plays when they come out and immediately spot the value that is inherent in these lines.
Absolutely. I saw Five Dimes just released those unders. Bet Online should be coming really soon. So yeah, maybe some live bets on the show. That'd be fun. But do want to shout out the chat before we get started. We appreciate you guys hanging out every week on a Monday, talking some props. We got Propaholic, first one in the building. We got Andy Bush Pictures. We got Lou Betcha. We got Daz. We got Victor. We got Grateful Dude, Papa Chuck. We got Pink in the chat as well. What is up? How are you guys doing on this nice Monday evening here? And yeah, I say we get into it. All right, we're going to start from the main event and then go down this way just in case we don't miss any openers here. But we have Jan Blachowicz going against Magomed Ankalaev, and we have the fight goes to decision is sitting at plus 140. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 170. The over 4.5 rounds, plus 125. The under 4.5 rounds is minus 155. Yeah, I think I saw it in the 5-round analytics. I think it was like 78%, something like that, of light heavyweight main events finish inside the distance. I was hoping to get the fight doesn't go to decision around even money. It's not there. So I'm not laying minus 170 on a Magomed Ankalaev fight to end inside the distance just because I can see it just being a very slow-paced fight. But, you know, these guys they're both dangerous. These guys, you know, they both have been finished in the past, but you know, minus 170, it's not enough to really tempt me to bet violence here. If it gets down to close to even money, I'll consider it. But as of now, it's a straight pass for me. And even the fight goes to decision, I could definitely see a finish here. So this is a pass for me as of now, Weezy. What are the analytics saying about this one?
Well, I've got it highlighted right here for light heavyweight 5-round fights. We've had 53 of them since the year 2013, and 73.58% of them have finished inside the distance, just under 75%. And if you want to put that on a implied probability scale, you're looking right at around minus 280. That's where the benchmark line should be priced for an for a fight doesn't go in a 5-round fight. And we see that it's not priced at 73% here. It's priced at 63%. So it's actually about a 10% break over the benchmark. It's a 205-pound 5-round fight. And dudes get knocked out in these fights. We know that Jan Blachowicz had dealt with a really bad neck injury that he went into the Teixeira fight with. And it looks like that thing might still even be an issue for him. So I don't hate anybody taking a chance on the unders here, but it is important to note that in these guys' 28 UFC fights, Brady, only 53% of them have finished inside the distance. And we do know that Ankalaev fights at a snail's pace. So this thing is one of those lines that it's not really jumping out on either side, and the analytics are actually show that it's pretty fairly priced here, exactly where it's at minus 170 for violence, plus 140 for non-violence. So this feels like a stay away, but if you have a read one way or another, the line is priced fairly. So if your read is screaming violence or non-violence, you might want to get on this line right here. My read is that I just don't really bet Ankalaev time props because he's kind of maddening in terms of how effective and clean he can be at times, and then how lazy and non-confrontational he can be in other fights. So Yeah, there's a lot at stake here. He might not want to make a mistake. He might wait to just counter, and it could be a very low volume fight that goes the distance. So I am not feeling this one from a betting perspective.
I have no strong lean one way or another. I mean, sometimes Ankalaev looks like an absolute killer, and sometimes he just does literally nothing. So I can see it now. I lay minus 170 on the fight doesn't go, and I'm screaming at my TV for 25 minutes for him to do anything. So yeah, it's not worth it. But yeah, if the line comes down, I'll consider it. But as of now, it's a straight pass for me.
Absolutely, and I feel the same way, dude.
There we go. All right, co-main event. We have Paddy Pimblett going against Jared Gordon. We have the over/under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is plus 120. The under 2.5 is minus 150. The fight goes to decision is plus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 175. And then it's also minus 195 on 5 dimes. Looks like money's coming in on the violence on 5 dimes, but the money's coming in on the non-violence on Bet Online here. And I just don't see Jared Gordon finishing Paddy Pimblett here. I think if this fight does finish, it is on the Pimblett side, which is why I was considering maybe the Paddy Pimblett finish only, but it's minus 400. So, yeah, again, nothing really sticking out here either. I mean, I would lean towards violence just because I'm picking Pimblett, but I don't want to lay minus 175 on it. It's another pass for me, Weezy. Anything sticking out to you?
Yeah, I mean, like the prop template loves this over 2.5. And I mean, look, we got a 14 fight sample size here to deal with. 7.61% break on the over 2.5 compared to the benchmark. The benchmark for this division on over 2.5 is 53%. So, if you're only paying 45%, that's a nice little break. An 11.7% break over the combined finish over the combined over 2.5 rates of these two fighters, and a 4.08. They're going over 2.5 at a 4% rate, greater than what the division does as a whole. So it's a trifecta bet here. It's well priced. The problem is that Paddy Pimblett's a big favorite, and Paddy has finished all 3 of his UFC wins, and Jared Gordon has been finished in all 4 of his UFC losses. So the problem with betting the over here is that what the bookies are telling you is that Paddy wins this fight 3 out of 4 times, and that he finishes all the time, and Gordon gets finished all the time. So, in this case, maybe the play is, instead of betting the under 2.5 at minus 150, you bet Pimblett inside the distance and get a better line, because it's just very unlikely that a guy with the chin of Paddy Pimblett is going to get knocked out by a guy in Jared Gordon who doesn't really knock people out. And I think if Jared does win, you're talking about a guy who's 6-0 in decisions at the UFC level. It probably is going to be by decision, as Paddy's ridiculously tough. So yeah, I do like the over here, and I think the best way to play that is just to bet the over. If you're on the violence side, why not just bet Paddy inside the distance? You'll get better than the minus 150 or minus 175 that you're getting on the under 2.5 and fight doesn't go respectively. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. But I like Paddy, but I still don't like that inside the distance. It's minus 120. I would need at least plus money to consider it. But yeah, if you like Paddy, instead of that money line, which is minus 260, inside the distance, the way to go. Paddy's a finisher. Gordon's been finished 5 times. And then, yeah, the over, if you like Gordon, you probably like that over. And then Gordon by decision right now is plus 420 on 5 dimes and plus 350 on Bet Online. But I'm assuming FanDuel's going to have even a better price on that as well.
Probably, yeah. And with the amount of hype that we know is on Paddy, Brady, you got to assume that if you're on that Gordon side, like the money line side, you should be able to wait. You'll probably get a better line later in the week here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the Paddy money line's been just completely smashed, and it won't stop. I'm curious to see how wide this Paddy line actually gets. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll keep moving on. We have the Lawler fight is off.
Yes. So it's going to be Till Duplessis is next on my sheet.
Perfect. All right. We have Darren Till going against Dricus Duplessis. We have the over-under set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is plus 120. The under 2.5 is minus 150. The fight goes to decision plus 140. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 170. Yeah, I do like violence here, and I like it quite a bit. Do I like it at minus 170? Not entirely, but Dricus is a killer be killed fighter. He's went to decision 1 time and that was his very last fight. So yeah, I like violence here, but the minus 170 is not something I'm really running to the window for. Weezy, what's sticking out on this one?
We got a trifecta for fight goes to decision here at a 41.67% implied probability. We have had Darren Till has went to decision 5 out of 11 times, and Dricus du Plessis has went to decision 1 out of 3 times at the UFC level, which means that 7 of their 14 fights have actually went to decision. This is a good number because we're only paying 41.67% on the implied probability. We're not paying anything on the VIG here. As a matter of fact, we're getting a 3.2% break based on what the divisional fight goes to decision metric is. And these guys go to decision at a 5% rate higher than what the division does as a whole. But what the problem here is, Brady, is that Dricus du Plessis has finished fights 18 out of his 19 pro fights and wins and losses have finished inside the distance. And the only one that didn't, he just beat 7 shades of shit out of Brad Tavares for like 3 rounds straight there. And if Tavares wasn't Hawaii tough and could just and has an amazing chin, he gets finished too. So if you're betting this over, you're flying in the face of the fact that du Plessis fights finish inside the distance almost all the time. With that being said, where these lines are priced right now, you're looking at a fat negative trifecta here on the fight doesn't go to decision side, as we're overpaying about 8% in comparison to the benchmark, 13% in accordance to the implied probability of the line when we compare the fight doesn't go to decision rates, which is 50%, and they're finishing inside the distance at a 5% rate lower than what the division does. So minus 170 is overpriced. You know, you should be able to get this around minus 145, minus 150, which would be a much more fair price to pay here. Minus 170 is just too much juice. Even with the killer be killed fighter like du Plessis, we got to keep in mind that Till is super low volume. He's a counter puncher. He's a sniper. So we might see Dricus be a little bit more deliberate than what we're used to seeing him because of the stylistic components of this matchup here. I'm leaning the fight goes to decision side, but I'm not running the window, Brady, and getting in the way of a guy who's finished his fights 18 out of 19 times as a professional.
Yeah, I mean, what really sticks out to me is that 78% combined of both fighters. I don't think I'm going to touch it as of now, but if it comes down at all, I got to. Just because of Dricus being that killer be killed style. And there are question marks about Darren Till. You know, where's his head at? He's been finished several times. The Derek Brunson fight was not a good look. So, yeah, I do like violence here, but I'm going to kind of wait and see where this line does go.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with waiting on something that's overpriced, you know? Just sit back and wait. If the price keeps going up, then you did the right thing anyway, you know? But if it doesn't, then you might be able to get a much better price, and that's what you're always looking for. The long-term gamblers always have to be concerned about the price.
Absolutely, price is key. All right, until we talk about this one fight later down the card, but next we have, and I got to scroll all the way down. Shout to best fight odds. We have Bryce Mitchell going against Ilia Topuria. We have the over/under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 105. The under 2.5 rounds is minus 125. The fight goes to decision plus 125. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 155. This is all on 5 dimes. A bet online.
Which fight is this?
Taporia Mitchell.
Okay, so what do they got for fight doesn't go? It's moved.
Fight doesn't go is minus 155.
Okay, and for fight goes, it's
plus 125 now.
Okay, cool. All right.
But yeah, I mean, this is a fight where I don't know. Taporia, he's very, very dangerous. I feel like it's gonna. Oh man, I have no clue. I have no strong lean one way or another whether this finishes or not. I feel like if it does finish, it's going to be Taporia getting the finish. But Bryce Mitchell, he's shown a ton of toughness. He's a great grappler. I think it's one of those fights where it could go to decision, but there's going to be a ton of sketchy moments in this one. Just another one where I just don't have a strong lean on it. One that I probably stay away from. But Weezy, what's sticking out on this one?
Well, what's sticking out is that what everybody's eyes are telling them is that this fight is going to finish inside the distance. And as a result of that bias on everybody's part, we're seeing an overpriced line here at minus 155. So let's keep in mind that this is a featherweight fight, Brady, and featherweight fights that are 3 rounds are only finishing 43% of the time. Now, we're paying 60%, 60.78%. So that's 17% overpriced according to the benchmark. When we look at these guys, 10 combined UFC fights, only 4 of them have finished inside the distance. That's only 40%. So that means we're overpaying by 20.78% here when we compare the fighter finish rates against the implied probability of the line. And these guys aren't even finishing at the division benchmark rate when you combine their 2 finish rates at 40% here. So even if you think this fight isn't going to decision, I mean, you're way, way overpaying for this line. And on the other side, hey, we got a fight goes to decision at plus 125, 12% underpriced according to the benchmark, because we know that about 56.6% of featherweight fights are going to decision. 15.5% break when we compare that 60% decision rate to the 44% implied probability of the line. And these guys are going to decision at a 3.42% rate, better than what the division does. So the value clearly on the nonviolent side, but for the second straight time, Brady, when we're taking that nonviolent side, and it's the only reason I haven't jumped on it so far, we're breaking that cardinal rule where we don't want to bet nonviolence when one of the fighters is a kill or be killed fighter. And Ilia Topuria is a kill fighter. Is he a be killed fighter? Well, we don't know. We don't know if either of these guys is a be killed fighter, Brady, because neither one of them has ever lost. So that's a problem, right? Yeah. We can't really say for sure that Bryce Mitchell is incredibly durable. We can't say for sure that Ilia Topuria is incredibly durable because we haven't seen either of these guys face a whole lot of adversity in the cage, to be honest with you. They've both been very dominant and very clean performances. So the only reason I haven't gotten on this trifecta bet is because Topuria just goes, this guy's fights go to decision, and the only time it didn't was what, the Ryan Hall fight, was it? Or which one did he go to decision?
Yusuf Salal, but there was like 20 different moments where that fight could have finished. He had a bunch of deep chokes in.
Yeah, so I think I'm staying away from this one because the violent side, I'm not making negative trifecta bets. No, and not making negative trifecta bets. In addition to that, we got to look at the fact that this guy Mitchell his fights have only finished inside the distance 1 of 6 times at the UFC level. This reminds me just a little bit of the Valdez-Levy fight last week. Yeah, of course we're going to bet fight doesn't go for Valdez-Levy. Valdez has never seen the scorecards, but we knew that Levy wasn't a finisher going in, right? So if he wins the fight, if he controls the pace of the fight, there's a good chance that it did go to decision, and it did. We bet it because you'd want to stay out of the way of those kill or be killed fighters, and Gennaro showed a lot of durability in that fight, but didn't work out for us violence better. So we got to always keep in mind, the pricing and the stylistic matchup.
Yep, makes sense. Just one I don't have any interest in at all. All right, we'll keep moving on. We have Dolce, Bulla. No, we don't. We have Rosenstruck, right?
Yes, Rosenstruck, Daucus.
All right, Rosenstruck, Daucus. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 plus 120. The under 1.5 rounds is minus 150. The fight goes to decision is plus 320. The fight doesn't go is now minus 425. It has moved a little bit there. But yeah, I have a bet on the under 1.5. It opened up at minus 115. I went to bet that, and it said the odds changed to plus 114. And I was like, okay. So I put a unit on that. But yeah, money's been just pouring in on that ever since, and it is currently at minus 150. I like the under here. I like the fight doesn't go to decision as a parlay piece. These numbers these violence numbers are just crazy. And I like violence here. Probably one of my favorite violence spots on the card.
Yeah, absolutely. And 14 of their 16 combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance. And 100% of these two guys' UFC wins are inside the distance. Even at minus 150 for the under 1.5, that's a 60% implied probability. Now, about 43.5% of heavyweight fights go under 1.5 rounds. So we're overpaying by 16% there, according to the benchmark. But of course, we would expect to do that, Brady, because if we see here, 75% of these guys combined 16 fights, so 12 of their combined 16 fights have finished under 1.5 rounds at the UFC level. So we're getting a 15% break there. And these guys are going under 1.5 combined at a 31.5% rate higher than what the division does. Rosenstruik is violent. Daucus is violent. Daucus has been finished in both of his UFC losses, and Rosenstruik's been finished in 2 of his 4 UFC losses. I know one of the guys that didn't finish him was Cyril Gane, and Cyril Gane just danced that whole time, never really landed anything big, but he just picked apart Jairzinho from the outside. So, I mean, like, Jairzinho's, that's not Chris Daucus's game. Chris Daucus isn't like a touch boxer. You know, Chris Daucus isn't outpointing people. As a matter of fact, Chris Daucus has only won 1 decision in his entire life, and that's in 17 professional fights. He's had 1 fight go to decision. So you got a 94% career finish rate for Daucus, 81% career finish rate for Rosenstruik. It's a striker versus striker matchup. Both of these guys have got a shit ton of power, so I'm expecting somebody to get slept. I've got 1.15 units on the under 1.5 at minus 115. Then that line moved to plus money, and I said I'm betting it again, so I put another unit on the under 1.5 at plus 114, and then the line moved all the way here to minus 150. But even at minus 150, it's still absolutely bettable at this spot because we're seeing a 75% combined under 1.5 rate for these two gentlemen, while the line is still only priced at 60%.
Yep, I like it, and I like it a lot. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so I like it. Yeah, minus 150, I still think that's very playable. And like I said, like I think it's a solid parlay piece as well. It just seems like one of the more safe parlay pieces on the card as well.
I couldn't agree more. It's an excellent line.
Perfect. All right, so we like that a lot, and we do have a bet on that as well.
I'm going to be right back. I got to grab my pen because I'm not writing down the shit that I like. So I want to write it down. So I'll be back in 2 seconds. Introduce this next fight.
Yes, sir. All right. Next we have Dolce Bulla going against Edmund Shabazian. We have the over/under. We have a 2.5 and a 1.5. So the 2.5 is over 2.5 plus 180. The under 2.5 is minus 220. The over 1.5 is minus 146. The under 1.5 is plus 116. The fight goes to decision plus 170. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 215. Yeah, this is another one where I do like violence here. Looks like 5 Dimes has the under 2.5 at minus 165. That would be nice. I'm not sure if I like an under 1.5, but I lean violence in this one, but not sure if I'm going to play it. Weezy, what's sticking out here?
So for the Shabazian, is the under 1.5 still sitting at plus 116?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's showing those as overpriced, the violence lines here in this fight. But in terms of this line here, which is the fighter finish rates or the fighter under rates, in 14 combined UFC fights, it's not underpriced or overpriced according to those numbers. We're underpriced by 3.17% on the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 215, and we're underpriced by overpriced by 3.44% for the plus 116 under 1.5 rate. So 6 of these guys, 8 combined losses are inside the distance, and 5 of 7 of them at the UFC level. So, you know, we got a really nice 71% combined inside the distance rate, and it's the exact same for both of them. And in both of them, it's in a 7-fight sample size. So I really do think that somebody is getting finished here. This fight doesn't go to decision at minus 215 is overpriced by 13% according to the benchmark. However, that underpricing here and the significant underpricing here leads me to believe that that could potentially be a good parlay piece this week at minus 215 because, you know, I just don't have a lot of faith in Dolce's durability and ability to be able to push a pace. And unless like Dolce has some grappling success or some success in the clinch in the second and third rounds, I think, you know, Edmund's going to land a big shot at some point here. And when that happens, I think the fight's going to end. But yeah, it's not one I'm running to the window either way here. We've got some decent value here at 7.13% and about 4%. But, you know, you could see underneath here that they're all overpaying. So like the non-violent side isn't underpriced enough. The violence prices are a little bit overpriced according to the benchmark, but pretty accurately priced according to what these fighter, rates are at the UFC level. So it kind of feels like a stay away from me, but I wouldn't hate anybody parlaying violence here.
Yeah, and even like the under at plus money, I don't completely hate that. Edmund has 10 first-round finishes out of 11 fights. He's only had one win that went over the first round.
Yeah, and he's got a ton of power, So if he can stop the takedown attempts or the clinch attempts from Lungi and Bulla, and since Lungi and Bulla is not like this great wrestler, he's a judo player. He's just got to, keep Dolce's hips away from his, and he should be safe. So if he could do that, he could probably land these big shots. He's got great boxing. It's just, we haven't seen him look good for a minute. So, if you bet violence here and then Edmund just kind of comes out looking flat, you might not, this thing could easily go over.
Yeah. What was interesting, man, I went back and watched the Soriano fight, and Dolce went to wrestle with Soriano, and the coaches were like screaming at him at the top of his lungs to not wrestle because he doesn't have the energy to do it. So,
yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, I think fight doesn't go a really good look. Under 2.5 could be a good look as well, but the under 1.5, I'm a little bit iffy about that one. I think it hits potentially, but I like getting that extra round there because both guys, their cardio is not great, especially Dolce, some of the worst cardio I ever see.
Yeah, when you're bricked up like that, you really have to be very aware about your pacing. And it's never been Dolce's, he's not a minute winner anyway, so he might as well just go balls out, because it's not like he's going to win sustained minutes over a 3-round fight. So he might as well just go out there and try and end his opponent. He's got the power to do so. Yeah. So it'll be an interesting one. And like I say, if your stylistic read is screaming violence here, this line isn't overpriced when you consider a 14-fight sample size here at the UFC level, and they're winning and losing at the exact same rate. It feels like a safe bet if that's what your read is. It's just my read is a little bit more neutral on this one.
Yep, fair enough. All right, we'll move on to the next fight. We have Billy Corralillo going against Alexander Hernandez. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds is minus 185. The under 2.5 rounds is plus 155. There we go. The fight goes to decision minus 160, and the fight doesn't go to decision is plus 130. Yeah, I think violence is a really good look here. I want that extra half a round though. I would rather go with that fight doesn't go at plus 130 just because, Alexander Hernandez, he does slow down as the fight goes on. He slowed down very bad in the Dober fight, in the Moicano fight, in the Cowboy fight, and Billy Corralillo just pushes a very, very heavy pace with the wrestling, the grappling, the striking. He's nonstop in your face. I think that's going to really pose Hernandez some problems there. And he's cutting down a weight class here, which I do not like for Hernandez as well. So I like Billy to get the job done late. But with that said, Hernandez has a ton of power early, multiple first-round knockout wins. And Billy Corralillo, although he's very tough, he eats punches with his face. So he's going to get hit. He's going to get hit very, very hard. So I can see it as maybe Hernandez first-round knockout. And if not, I think Billy drowns him and gives Hernandez like his 4th finish loss in the UFC. I think violence here is a phenomenal spot, Weezy, and it's sitting at plus 130. I love that number, and I will be betting it if I can get it anywhere near that price tag at plus money.
Yeah, so I guess we kind of got to just wait for that to open on Bet Online because that plus 130 for Fight Doesn't Go, that's on 5 Dimes, right? Yeah, and we've got, but it did open here on Bet Online plus 155 for the under 2.5, and we could see right here that we're only overpriced by less than 1% according to the benchmark. So, we know, Brady, that there's usually about 6% of VIG in these lines. So I can consider something up to 3 and 4% even overpriced on this line here, right? On this line, the benchmark versus the implied probability of the line. I'm willing to call something 3 or 4% overpriced, fairly priced because of the price of doing business. But, when you got a 16-fight sample size for these two gentlemen, 17% underpriced, which means that these guys go under 2.5 at the UFC level about 56% of the time, and 17.74% underpriced according to the benchmark. So the unders in this spot are excellent bets, absolutely excellent bets. I do tend to agree with you that I would rather have that Fight Doesn't Go at plus 130 than the under 2.5 at plus 155, simply because of the pace that Corralillo puts on. The style of fight that he brings is is one that you would never really be surprised to see him finish in the last 2.5 minutes of round 3. So plus 130, plus 155 for the under 2.5. The prop template blesses the shit out of these two bets. Definitely one of my favorite ones on the whole card.
Perfect. So we are in the same boat there. I think violence is just a great look in general. And like I said, him cutting down weight in this fight makes me like it even more. Like, how's his gas tank going to look? How's his durability going to look? And Billy just puts on an incredible pace. And we've seen him broken so many times, and I can definitely see it again. But I also like the fight doesn't go rather than Billy inside the distance, because again, Billy is very, very hittable with that 40% strike and defense. Yeah, violence is a great spot here.
Yeah, and I just bet that under 2.5 for one at plus 155 for 1 unit. And then I think what I'm going to do, Brady, is add on another unit at plus 130-ish when that opens on Bet Online. I just wanted to make sure that that plus 155 is just an absolutely beautiful number. Whether it's the plus 130 or the plus 155, the prop template loves it either way. But it even likes that fight doesn't go to decision at plus 130 even better. And like I say, just so I don't miss that plus 155 in case it moves, I had to bet it, and I'm going to add on another unit at plus 130.
Yeah, no shame in that, because if Bet Online does wait till like tomorrow, that line's probably gone. So I might hop on it. I might hop on it as well, just in case. But yeah, not a bad idea at all. All right, we will keep moving on to the next fight. We have Chris Curtis going against Joaquin Buckley. We have the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 118. The under 2.5 minus 148. The fight goes to decision plus 170. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 215. I kind of like the over here. More specifically, the over 1.5, which is currently minus 145 on 5 dimes. Don't know if I love the 2.5 here, but I could see this squeaking over just due to the fact that Chris Curtis is very, very durable. Only 1 knockout loss in 38 fights. So I could see this going the distance for sure. And at plus 170 it is. My goodness, for the fight goes, it's definitely going to be a sweat. I mean, both guys are dangerous, but I do like the durability of Curtis in this one. Have not pulled the trigger on anything yet, but I might be looking at that over 1.5. I think that probably sticks out the most at minus 145. What's sticking out here to you, Weezy?
We've got a 7% underpricing here, 4% here, 4% here. So they're shading us towards the non-violent side. It does look like some money has come in on the violent side. Can you tell me what the under 1.5 is on 5 dimes, Brady?
Yep, the under 1.5 is plus 115.
115. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we see big overpricings here in comparison to the benchmarks, right? 13%, 9.5%, 9.8%. But we also see an 8% overpricing on the under 1.5 line at plus 115. But the under 2.5 at minus 148 is a lot more interesting, as it's 9% underpriced according to the under 2.5 rates of these two fighters, and 19% underpriced when you compare the fighter under 2.5 rates to the men's 185-pound under 2.5 rate. They're probably hitting it at about a 78% clip here. A 68% clip. So yeah, it's right now, the unders are overpriced, the overs are underpriced, but the metrics aren't telling us to play this really either way. It feels like the lines are priced about where they should be. It depends really on what your read is. But I would agree with you, Brady, that I think what the prop template is telling us that the best priced line here is, it's this over 1.5 here at minus 145.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Minus 145 for that over. Just relying on that durability of Curtis, and if there is a finish in this fight, maybe it's Curtis late if Buckley does slow down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be scary. Both guys hit very, very hard, but I could definitely see it hitting.
Yeah, I agree. But it's not one of the ones that's really exciting me or tickling my fancy, if you will.
Yeah, you'll never see an over tickling any of my fancies. I'm an under guy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, they can do it statistically, but then you still got to. I mean, like, I hit that plus 265 on the fight goes for Acosta versus Sherman, but like, it took years off my life, man. Yeah. Acosta was beating the hell out of Sherman, so I mean, it's hard. It's hard betting overs.
Yeah, I had to turn the fight off because I thought for sure Sherman was going to get finished, so I turned it off in like the second round.
Yeah, it's so hard to watch when you're betting overs, man. It's so hard.
But people like it. People like the sweat. Sick people out there. Sick people. And we'll move on to the next fight. We have
Silva versus Brown,
right? Yeah. We have Eric Silva going against TJ Brown. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 plus 110, the under 2.5 minus 140. And actually on Bet Online, they have the 1.5. So the over 1.5 is minus 175, and the under 1.5 is plus 145 there. Yeah, I kind of like violence here. It's minus 180 now. Looks like went minus 180 to plus 130 on 5 dimes, and now it's back to minus 180. Weird movement there. I'd lean violence, but I don't know. This is not a fight in general. I just want anything to do with there's like 2 1-800 gambler candidates for this card, and this is one of them for me. So I don't know if I'm going to bet this fight, Weezy, but is there anything sticking out?
Well, we've got a 7-fight sample size at the UFC level combined for these guys, and 42.86% have finished inside the distance. 57% have went the distance. So this line right here is going to be a better line for us to kind of figure out what's going on, because we're 15.7% underpriced here and 8.86% underpriced according to the benchmark. And this guy Silva has been crushing absolute cans on the regional scene. So, and then he comes in to the Contender Series and fights a guy with absolutely no ground game, a kickboxer, a pure kickboxer. And he takes him down and he submits him. But, TJ Brown, while he's not the best fight IQ guy, we did see him get choked out by Jordan Griffin in a very strange way. This guy Silva, Brown's by far the toughest opponent that he's ever fought. And Silva seems to be a very competent grappler. So my stylistic read is that the overs are the best bet here. And if you look at like the negative trifecta bets that we have here at minus 185 for fight doesn't go, 21.5% overpriced here, 22% overpriced here. We got a 13.3% overpricing here, 26% overpriced here. 13% overpriced there, Brady. I mean, these violence bets are so overpriced. I don't think you can really count on TJ Brown to get finishes at this level. He's finished one of his 3 wins, and he's been finished in one of his 3 losses, but only 2 of his 6 UFC fights have finished inside the distance. Getting these that fat plus money number on the fight goes, or the over 1.5 at minus 175. I think those are both the best bets for this fight, but my God, is it a 1-800 gambler fight? There's no question about it. I don't want to trust either of these guys to be durable or to finish at this level.
I think you summed it up perfectly. Like, how could you trust these guys to do anything?
I know, except for make bad decisions on haircuts and fight, in fight decisions like TJ Brown has shown that he can do over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, just the mess. I mean, I would lean violence, but you can't touch that line. I'm not that confident in it. Weezy, I am confident in this next one though. We have Vinces Salvador going against Daniel Da Silva. So this was a weird one. So they opened up the 1.5 last night, and it was the only prop they opened up, and it just sat there, you're just getting smashed. So they opened it up at minus 170. And I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? Because I wasn't planning on betting the under 1.5, and I'm hoping maybe get it around even money. No, not at all. It's minus 170, and then it's currently minus 210. Weezy, you will never, ever, ever, ever see another flyweight under 1.5 price like this. I mean, have you ever seen anything close to this in a flyweight fight?
I don't think I've ever seen. Let me show you. I got to show you this. Oh, it won't even let me zoom in. That's fucking crazy. Am I on a different? Why won't it let me zoom in on my own goddamn spreadsheet? All right. Anyway, 40% overpriced on the under 1.5 when it comes to the benchmark. What that means is that 27.5% of flyweight fights that are 3 rounds since the year 2013 have finished under 1.5 rounds. 27%. We're paying 67% for this fight to go under 1.5 rounds.
You want to hear something funny?
What's that?
The fight doesn't go to decision. It has moved. It has moved to minus 550.
Woo!
And currently
get out your parlays, everybody. What could possibly go wrong paying an 84% implied probability for a fight not to see the scorecards when only 42% of fights finish inside the distance in this division?
Let's go.
That's a 42% overpricing according to the benchmark. But this is why, Brady, 33 combined fights for these two clowns as professionals, and 32 of them have finished inside the distance. Neither one of these guys has any respect for their own safety or well-being. They fight like they're on bath salts. They fight like they're triple parked and have to go to their fourth job of the night 30 seconds after this fight starts. So it's going to be a wild one. I think that if you're a time prop guy, you either watch this one from the sidelines or you make one of two choices that makes you a fucking wild man, which is A, laying minus 210 on an under 1.5 in a flyweight men's fight, or betting the over 1.5 with two guys who have been over 1.5 a combined 1 of 33 times, 3%. 3%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's completely unbettable. Even giving me a 36% edge over the benchmark here at plus 180, I'm still overpaying by 10.7% when I compare these guys, over 1.5 rates to the implied probability of the line, because they actually have went over 1.5 once, and that was the Vinicius Salvador DWCS fight.
Yeah, I mean, these are probably the best finalist numbers I've ever seen. I mean, 96.97%. I mean, it's just wild.
Yeah, so, and they're not heavyweights. And they're not even like light heavyweights or middleweights or welterweights or lightweights. They're flyweights, so it's wild. And when you watch these guys fight, you can tell that they're not really interested in being out there for 15 minutes at all.
No. I mean, they look for the door, both of them. Both of them look for the door, especially Silva. I mean, Silva is very, very, very bad. I mean, they're both pretty bad, but they're both really dangerous as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely not touching the over. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, you can't parlay minus 550 anymore. So yeah, I guess I'm not gonna have a bet on this fight unless the books maybe mess up a line later in the week, maybe FanDuel and DraftKings. But I bet FanDuel has the fight doesn't go like minus 1,000 like they did for the freaking Tuivasa fight.
Yeah, people were parlaying the shit out of them. What was it, minus 325? I mean, wherever 5 dimes opened it, I was like, man, that's a parlay piece, because this one is not going to decision. But now even that's minus 550. It's bonkers. It's absolutely crazy.
Yep, but yeah, hot take. I think the fight ends inside the distance. Very hot take there.
That's why we got you, Brady. You just don't care. You're gonna just say that you think that this fight finishes inside the distance.
Yep. Sometimes you just gotta put your balls on the table and just say it, right?
That's right, man. Menacingly flop them on the table and say, "This is the side that I'm on."
Sounds good. All right, let's keep moving on. We have the Rosas Perrin fight. We have the over/under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds is minus 110. The under 2.5 is minus 120. The fight goes to decision minus 105. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 125. No clue. I have no clue on this one. I lean it going to decision, but I could also see a late Perrin finish. I could also see a Raul Rosas early finish if he takes the back. I'm leaning fight goes personally, but not touching this one. Weezy, anything sticking out here?
Yeah, it's so hard because, all 4 of these guys' UFC fights combined have seen the scorecards, right? So, and because it's a small sample size, it kind of renders rows 10 and 11 on the spreadsheet to be like such small sample sizes that we really can't count on those numbers very much. What we do see in the numbers that do matter here is that we're overpaying for violence by a decent amount, which is concerning. Why would we have to overpay for violence bets when these guys have seen the scorecards in all 4 of their UFC fights? So it doesn't really make any sense to bet violence at the current numbers. But I could see, because of the stylistic components of this matchup, where I would say to myself, yeah, I think I'd rather be on the violence side. This guy Rosas is a great grappler, and he doesn't fuck around with the striking exchanges. He's going to walk forward, throw about 6 or 7 strikes, try to back Jay up to the fence, and then he's going to shoot it on a double leg. And if he gets it, he's going to be dangerous. But the other side of that is that we know Jay is a very durable guy. He's only been finished once in his entire career. He keeps fights close, and he's got excellent conditioning. And we also know he's training with Merab Dvalishvili, so we know that when this guy is in the gym, he's used to feeling, a lot of pressure, a lot of offensive wrestling from his training partners. And Dvalishvili's a lot higher level than this 18-year-old kid that he's going to fight on Saturday. So I've got a bet on the Jay Perrin money line here. And I could absolutely see a late finish here, because if Jay can not necessarily not stop the takedowns, but if he just keeps getting up, Brady, I don't know what Raul Rosas is going to look like here in the second round. With a potential adrenaline drop, his UFC debut, fighting a guy that does have good takedown defense and a very good get-up game. If he pushes that pace for the first round and a half, trying to get Jay down over and over and over again, and he's unable to keep him down there, and he's unable to advance position and start working for submissions, we could easily see this dude completely gas out. Jay Perrin is a guy who, when he is at boxing range, he's going to be ripping to the body. We've seen him do that over and over and over again. So, yeah, I'm worried about Rosas Jr.'s ability to push a pace for the full 3 rounds, even though he's only 18, and I'm sure his conditioning is going to be fantastic. It's not the conditioning that I'm worried about for Rosas. It's the kind of pace that he has to push in order to get the fight that he wants. Perrin is a guy who just doesn't get tired. So I could easily see this fight finishing inside the distance, but I just don't see why we should overpay for it. Not for 2 guys who have never finished a UFC level fight inside the distance.
Yeah, I can see a finish. I'm kind of leaning the fight goes, but I'm not betting it. I mean, no strong lean for me. It's a pretty easy pass, and I'll be taking a look at the Perrin money line myself.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, a couple more left here. We have, this has got to be the 1-800 gambler fight of the night. We have OSP going against Antonio Tricoli. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 is -170. The under 1.5 is +140. The fight goes to decision +155. The fight doesn't go to decision is -185. Man, I think it finishes, but I don't know. -185. I just don't want to touch this fight at all. There's a lot of question marks about Tricoli. The guy's been on the juice. He's taken a little bit of a layoff, right? I think it's been like a year since he's fought. OSP's just looked atrocious. He looks washed. He looks done. He looks awful. I lean towards Tricoli eventually getting the job done, probably by submission, but I don't know. I don't like anything in this fight. Weezy, are there anything sticking out in the numbers?
I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, you know what the thing is here? Tricoli, for a guy who's fought nothing but regional scene bums, well, actually, that's not entirely true. He used to fight at 170, Brady. This guy's 6'5". Okay, used to fight at 170. Had fights against Diego Lima and Jacob Volkman like 6 years ago. Then he loses 3 fights in a row, with 2 of those fights being against Volkman and Lima. So good competition. And then he takes some time off. Then he's got a middleweight fight, and then he's got a light heavyweight fight. And it turns out he got a lot more muscular in that time off. I mean, why? Who knows? Probably just, saying his prayers, eating his Flintstones vitamins. But you never know. Maybe he got a little help from the Brazilian doctors. And now here he is now up at 205. And it's a weight class that suits him. He's a grappler. And we've seen St. Prue's fights finish inside the distance 68% of the time at the UFC level. But you know what? Tricoli's only finished 8 of his 12 pro wins. And I mean, they're all against bums. Not one of them is even close. They're not even getting to the sniff and butt stage of being UFC level. So I don't know if this guy Tricoli's a finisher. And St. Prue, I mean, are we going to count on this guy to finish anybody at this point? I don't think so. So, maybe we can get some decent plus money numbers on fight goes or overs, but like you said, dude, how are we supposed to be confident about what Tricoli's going to bring? And can we even handicap the percentage that Ovince St. Preux still gives a shit?
It doesn't look like he does.
I think it's about the same percentage as me giving a shit about this fight.
Yeah.
Guess whether that's a big or a small number, Brady.
Very small number.
Yeah, you're actually right on there. This is why we host shows together, my friend, because you know what I'm thinking.
Yeah. It's a shame that this fight is not off and the Lawler fight was.
Yeah, dude, this is a weird one.
It's terrible, man. It's horrible. I don't know.
It's like they threw some darts at a board. It's like, all right, it's going to be Ovince St. Preux against Anthony Tricoli. Who, well, that's what we got.
Just a mess. But yeah, I'm not betting on this fight, especially laying juice on this fight. So yeah, easy pass. All right, next we have a very interesting fight from a time prop perspective. We have Cameron Simon going against Steven Kozlow. We have the over-under is set at, they have 1.5 and a 2.5. So on 5 dimes. So over 1.5 is minus 130. Under 1.5 is plus 100. The over 2.5 is plus 142. The under 2.5 is minus 172. The fight goes to decision plus 175, and the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 225. Yeah, I'm hoping BetOnline puts this over under at 2.5 because I will be hitting that. I mean, what sticks out to me the most is the finish numbers for both guys and the fact that this is a striker versus grappler matchup. Simon has finished all but one of his wins, and Kozlow has finished all of his wins. Simon a ton of power on the feet, and Kozlow has shown a good submission ability. I think violence is the answer in this fight, but I'm hoping for a 2.5, and I'll be looking towards the under.
Yeah, and look, this guy Kozlow has 6 professional fights, and I think his total cage time is less than 15 minutes as a whole. So when you see something like that, it's almost impossible to bet a fight goes to decision, and have any kind of a reason for making that bet other than, well, maybe this one will be different, and that's not a good thing, but that's how people wind up getting divorced 6 times in a row and then wind up getting married again for the 7th time. Because they say some dumbass shit like, hey, maybe this time will be different. Yeah, well, maybe it won't be different. Maybe your fucking wife's going to leave you again because you're a dumbass, right? So this is another case with that, where we're saying we've got a guy who's never been out of the first round in Kozlow, who's taking the fight on short notice. And this is by far going to be the most talented opponent that he's ever fought. And like you said, striker versus grappler matchup. All of Kozlow's wins by submission. And then I think Cameron's got most of his wins by knockout. I believe he's got 1 rear naked choke that I saw when I watched him on the regional scene. So, excuse me. That under 2.5 at minus 172 for a guy that's never been out of the first round, taking the fight on short notice in Kozlow, I think that's a potential parlay piece, as is minus 225 for the fight doesn't go. Because we saw Simon get a late finish on the Contender Series against Josh Wayne Kim, who's a much better striker than Steven Kozlow is. So, yeah, love violence here. We'll see where they open it on books that you and I can bet on. But, yeah, that's a potential parlay piece there, too.
Yep, I like violence. I'm hoping they put it at 2.5, but we'll have to see here. I'll refresh to see if they've added it, and they have not. So yeah, nothing yet on BetOnline. Did we cover every fight?
I think we've covered every fight. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Okay, so what stuck out to you the most?
Okay, so definitely that under 1.5 for Rosen Daucus, even at minus 150, Brady, is still bettable according to the analytics. The over 2.5 in the Gordon Patty fight is interesting. But, dude, that under 2.5 and the fight doesn't go for Billy Q versus Alex Hernandez. Hernandez cutting down to 145 for the first time in his career against a guy that puts on a pace and pressure of volume as Billy Q. And, Hernandez has got power. That power will carry down to 145 for him, too. So, definitely love the stylistic matchup there and love the fact that we got somebody making their debut down the weight class who's been finished up weight classes as well. So that's a spot that I like. And then love that fight doesn't go to decision for Simon and Kozlow as well.
All right. For me, I didn't write anything down, but I'm going to quickly go over. Yeah, I'm with you on the Simon Kozlow under 2.5. Fight doesn't get the decision. I think will be great looks once they open the lines. With you. I like the Hernandez Corralillo, the under 2.5. The fight doesn't go to decision. I don't mind the Dolce Shabazian violence. Fight doesn't get the decision.
Yeah.
The under 1.5 in the Daucus Rosen Struck. And that is about it. So yeah, honestly, not a ton sticking out, man. I mean, I think the bookies are all over a lot of these spots. Lots of violent spots sticking out. I think 11 out of 13 or even 12 out of 13 fights are favored to end inside the distance this week. But I think they're on to a lot of these lines, especially that freaking Salvador line that I was waiting all day and night for. But yeah, but I think they're on to a lot of these violent spots.
Yeah, if we could have found that like line at minus 350, minus 400 for the Salvador fight doesn't go to decision, that's a for sure parlay piece. But up at minus 550, let's just forget it. Yeah, I mean, like I don't necessarily think that you need to even throw together a parlay this week. But if you were going to do it, oh God, no, I don't even think you need to throw a parlay together. That's going to be my stance because Rosenstruck Daucus at minus 150 is still bettable. That over 2.5 for Gordon Patty's plus money still bettable. Under 2.5 for Billy Q Alex plus money still bet. But you know what we could do? We could do like that. Fight doesn't go to decision for Simon Kozlow, and then the under 1.5 for Rosenstruck Daucus. We can make that the parlay.
All right, and that comes out to
should be plus money.
Yeah, plus 141.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And I was just seeing what happened if we added the De Silva, and it goes from plus 141 to plus 185. So
yeah, you could do that too. That you can make it a 3-leg. I mean, like if that fight went the full 3 rounds, it would be hilarious.
I'd probably quit if I had to bet on that fight. But I won't have
to carry De Silva out on a fucking stretcher because he's never fought more than 6 minutes in his life, dude. I mean, what would it look like?
I don't know. I mean, it had to be like Keith Peterson, just completely shit-faced,
like passed out in the corner of the
just in the corner.
while Cormier and Anik are like, "Well, somebody get a sober ref in there."
Yes, but yeah, I mean, yeah, not a ton of spots sticking out, but I mean, there are some very good. I like the Daucus under a lot, and then I love the Billy Q under and fight doesn't go. So those 2 spots are going to be bets for me for sure.
Absolutely. And I already bet that for 1 unit, the plus 155 there. And I'm waiting for that plus 130 for the fight goes, or maybe even a plus 135. And I'll hit that for another unit.
Yeah, but they should be releasing it very soon. Looks like they're 2 or 3 fights away from releasing that. So I'll be refreshing. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. 13 fights. Let the people know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout this week for UFC 282 content.
Yes, sir. So we're going to be, I'm going to be doing Just the Tip tomorrow night on my channel, Uncle Weezy, 10 o'clock Central Time. We're going to break down all these fights. Finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Wednesday, I'll be doing Ask Weezy on my channel, 10 o'clock Central Time as well. And then we'll be doing the DFS show, Brady, on Wednesday on Pub Sports Radio. And I think you and I are going to be working with Big Marley a little bit later on this week as well, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that's Thursday or
I think
Thursday.
It's Thursday. Right? Yeah, I think we're going to be taping that on Thursday.
And that is on the DFS Army YouTube channel, I believe.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. So check us out there. You can check me out on YouTube, DFS by the numbers, Twitter, DFS_numbers. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like here. Subscribe to the MMA Engine. More content coming throughout the week. Oh, Weezy, is Jay Perrin coming on this week?
I don't think we have an interview scheduled with him, but you never know, man. I'm going to see if Lou's going to get a hold of him. I'm ready to ask him some questions about this matchup. He seems very confident on Twitter, and I've got 1 unit behind him already. I think it's at plus 200, those are the kind of bets I've got to make, man.
Yeah, I'd love to see Perrin come on, so we'll see if Luke can set something up. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Best of luck, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. See you later.